Okay, it's now after 6 p.m. I'll call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order, Tuesday, April 27th at the North Brookfield Police Station Meeting Room. If you'd please all stand and join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First up, approval of minutes. We don't have any to approve tonight.
You'll have a whole bunch next time.
Oh, wonderful.
I sent them to you before.
Okay. Next is approval of the warrant. I'll entertain a motion to approve school warrant number 1055 for $181,876.20. General warrant number 1056 for $276,510.47. Payroll warrant number 22 for $363,312.86.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
CARES Act. So this is a request from the school for CARES Act funds for the buildings and grounds in the amount of $15,094 to Premier Park and Play for the purchase of an outdoor classroom shade structure. As part of the expenses that was originally submitted when we requested the funds. So they still available?
Yes.
What was that?
So-
15,000?
Okay, so after this payment of $15,094, the balance will be $22,080 in that CARES Act fund that the school had requested at the beginning. So there's plenty in there to pay it. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, what else we got? Board of Health purchase request.
They want to purchase thermal laminating sheets for $40 so that they can laminate signs to put up at like the recycling center or for COVID vaccine clinics, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I move to approve that request by the Board of Health. Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's
And I
see.
have a request to buy a roll of stamps for the Board of Selectmen's office. $55.
Yeah, I thought we set a basement on that, no?
No, we
Is
didn't.
everything?
Everything.
Yeah, it seems like,
I know.
but how is the revenue now?
It's
Because
doing better.
at the time, it was, the revenues weren't coming in,
Right.
which is why we needed to put a halt on. So if the revenues are coming in and there's enough to cover the
I can double
warrants.
check on that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, let us know, because we'll revisit that if the revenues are sufficient.
Okay.
Anything else on,
Can I buy the roll of stamps?
yeah, I think so.
Does she need a motion for that?
Yeah, why don't you make a motion?
Motion for Ashley to be able to buy a roll of stamps for the Board of Selectmen. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Sign an updated CDBG agreement, another one?
Yeah, we had signed one last time, but they wanted to make a couple of corrections. There was something with the amount that they were charging was off, and then they still had Nancy Michael as the accountant, so I just had them fix a couple things.
Okay, so it's a revision to an already signed
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
All right, Jason, you want to grab that? So I'll entertain a motion to sign the revised.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What do they need? 2 copies?
Yeah.
And now we need a corrected 61A release. What was wrong with the?
You did this, you voted on it last time, but, I had put the wrong booking page number, so this is just a corrected.
Oh, that'd be an issue.
Yes.
Is that the solar
Yes.
project?
So, on to new business. We got the complete streets is up first.
Okay. I hope those listening. Simple. There he is.
Who's that now?
This is Bill Pele and Jeff Frazier from the BSCG group that's engineering this. Can you guys hear us okay? I can't hear you.
You did it.
So you can still connect with Sheila.
Is it coming back in?
See if it's still connected.
Hold on one second, Bill. Let's see if I can figure this out. Choose your audio. You better at that than me?
I don't know.
Me neither.
Don't make
We
me
were
come
good a
over
second
there.
ago.
Don't make John trip out.
I think I was over here, but maybe not. I hit on the microphone.
Well, they're working on that. Do we have the charter contract?
I have it here.
Because I talked to Jake Anderson the other day, and he said there were still things that he was going to.
I emailed him to see if it was finalized and he never responded to me, so.
Yeah, no, he called me the
Oh,
other day.
okay.
He said that there are things that they're going to approach them on. They're not done with it yet. So I
Okay.
said as soon as the committee had it in a format that they were happy with,
Mhm.
because they're the industry experts, that we would take it up again. So.
Okay.
So next meeting for that one?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how long Jake says they're gonna need, but they gotta meet with Charter again. Let's see, Mass DOT contract?
Yeah, for highway.
What's this one? What's it for?
I have a question about Sarah Grant too. Spectrum then? Speaker?
Charter Spectrum, yeah. Yeah, our cable,
Bill, can you hear us?
the contract needs to be renewed, so our LPAC people are in negotiations with Charter to,
Oh, there I hear you.
Upgrade.
Charter or is it Spectrum? Can you hear me? I think that's okay.
It's the same.
it's the
Yeah.
same, it's Charter Spectrum.
Oh,
It's-
good.
They're one and the
Wanna
same.
Talk again.
I heard that
Oh,
one was
hey, wow.
cable and
Okay,
one
that
was
works.
internet.
You can hear us?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
Hold on.
Great.
I can't see you though. Yeah, hold on. I'm bringing them back up. There they go. You guys good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're good. Go ahead.
Want me to start?
Sure thing. That'd be great.
Okay. All right, thanks. So, hi folks. My name is Bill Paley and this is Jeff Vassar. We're with BSC Group, and we've been working with Sheila and Jason and Kim the past month and a half or so regarding North Main Street and talking about different options and funding and trying to get a project started. So, and then she's asked me to present what we have done so far. And so I put together just a few slides, shouldn't take too much time. Sheila, I would ask that if anyone wants to stop me and they have a question, I'll work through you because I can't see anyone.
Okay.
So just stop me and you can ask the question. So why are we doing this project? I'm going to go through a few slides just to kind of give folks an idea of existing conditions out there. Some of the things that we've seen on our site walks and our field walks has been various issues and challenges. Some of them regarding ADA compliance. Those are the wheelchair ramps. This is South Main Street. You've got long crosswalks, and we've got crosswalks with no signage, no advanced signing, no wheelchair ramps. So it makes it rather uncomfortable and unsafe for folks to cross safely. Again, this is just an example here of just there's no access at all. This is right adjacent to the library. Obviously, we're well aware of the situation in front of the buildings along North Main. You've got the steps and there's no access whatsoever. So that's a challenge that we've been looking at. How do folks get up to the buildings? How do folks get from the street onto the sidewalk, etc. Another example is there's a couple locations where you've got this abrupt change in grade. So if you're not paying attention, you could take a spill. So we've been looking at various issues related to that. And then you do have some compliance. You've got some access to some of the buildings. This is the old town hall. But still, it's not consistent throughout the corridor. Other things that we've been looking at, there's a sidewalk gap right over by the church, and we're looking at access to those stairs. People can park on one side of the street, but they can't access their vehicle. They're stuck between the car and the retaining wall there. So it creates challenges for folks to navigate along Main Street and get to businesses and places they want to go. Again, there's utility poles that are obstructing views in front of the sidewalk crossing. There's parallel parking, there's angled parking, so there's various different types of parking along the corridor. This is in front of Gillette, the Gillette kitchen store. They have private parking, so they have head-in parking, that's all their property. What it does is it creates a dangerous situation for pedestrians who are crossing in front of their building, so if someone's backing out, they may not see that person. And so this town has put this gore marking in front of their building to prevent folks from parking in front of the building and blocking their driveway. Again, there's a couple driveways where they're very steep. There's railings. They've got stairs, which we can't really resolve that problem, but we can certainly take the grade out of some of those driveways and make it safer for folks who are coming out of that driveway or for pedestrians who are walking across that driveway. Finally, we do have some obstructions and challenges that I want to just take a minute to review. Again, we have that retaining wall in front of the church. We've got utility poles, and then there's like a narrow space between the pole and the wall. So those create challenges for folks in wheelchairs or folks who can't navigate through there. Again, it's access from the stairs onto a sidewalk, lack of sidewalk, and old signs that don't meet standards, etc. And then this is the corner of School in North Main, where you've got two utility poles there, a hydrant on the corner, and you've got parking on each corner. And so how do we make that safe? How do we make it accessible for folks to navigate through the intersection? At the other corner, we've got drainage, and we've got that retaining wall, the railing, this corner. So, that's a challenge for access, folks getting around that corner, folks getting to their car, etc. This is just a photo of the steep grade along Summer, and just the access from Old Town Hall to those two doorways that access to the basement of the building. We want to maintain access to those. How do we navigate that steep slope, etc. And then we've got several hydrants along the route that prevent parking there, because you have to keep it clear for access for fire and for DPW. So those present challenges when we look at realigning the roadway or proposing improvements. So the project. So we've been working through different options with Sheila and her group. And this is the corridor. We've got Maple Street. There's two photos here. The top photo has Maple Street on the far left, and we're going basically from north to south. And we've identified 3 projects because we're going after a limited funding source. We've identified one project which is along the east side of the corridor, basically from Maple Street all the way down to South Main Street. And that work is going to include resetting curb, adding new curb, reestablishing sidewalk, making it consistent. And then we've established two projects on the west side, one from Maple Street to Summer, and then one from Summer Street down to South Main along the west side. So we think that we can fund the top project, the phase 1 project, which I'll go into a little more detail in a few minutes, but we've kind of broken out into 3 basic projects. And the reason being is because phase 2A and phase 2B, they have more issues. It's water line connections, it's grading issues, it's access to buildings. There's a little more work involved to make those accessible and work for the corridor, driveways, access, etc. So we've developed this conceptual plan. You're looking at the Maple Street end of the project, and again, phase 1 is along the east side of the project. It's really just realigning curb. It's establishing or establishing the parking that's along that side of the street. And then we've established those 2 projects on the west side. Phase 2A is really just includes Maple Street, a little bit beyond north of Maple Street, and then goes toward Town Hall. But if you see here by the cemetery, the issue that we've been facing with or learned about is cars speeding up down the hill. So by changing the geometry with new curb, we can establish a more consistent travel lane. And by doing that, cars will slow down. They'll see that they're entering the center of town. And by doing that, we also established 7 official parking stalls in front of the cemetery, north of Maple to Maple Street. And we know that the owner of the Gillette, some of their folks park over there, and but this will basically make it more defined and safer for folks, and also establishing a sidewalk over there, they can have access to Maple Street and points downtown. On Maple Street, we've changed the geometry. We're proposing to change the geometry to narrow up the width a little bit. It still works for trucks turning in and out of Maple Street, but also what that does is it establishes 4 more official parking spaces on Maple Street, which is really great because I know parking is tough downtown. There's angled parking in front of the buildings, the Mini Mart, the liquor store, the Gillette. So what we're proposing is to establish what we call a curb extension at the corner of Maple. And I don't know if you can see my cursor, but we're establishing a curb extension here, narrowing up the crossing width. And we're also proposing the same thing roughly in front of the liquor store and maintaining the angled parking. So we're extending the angled parking in front of the Gillette establishment. It adds 4 new spaces there, and nothing really changed a lot for the way that the people park there, so they're used to that now, and it'll stay the same in the future. So things that we were doing is we're realigning the roadway with just pavement markings and curb, and that helps slow down vehicle speeds. We're establishing mid-block crosswalks, safer for pedestrians to cross, and then we're also adding parking, additional parking spaces in this location. So if we move down toward the intersection with School and Summer, again, the first project, the main project is along the east side, and it includes sidewalk and curb, etc. But what we're doing is we're going to establish a new sidewalk from the church parking access drive all the way to School Street. And we're able to do this by maintaining a more consistent lane width, a more consistent parking lane, and then whatever's left of that space is a sidewalk, 5.5-foot sidewalk, so folks can get out of their car, walk down the sidewalk, get to a corner, and cross the street safely. We're also establishing a safer mid-block crossing Right now, folks get stuck in between vehicles and they may not be seen. There may be snow over there, so they can't really get around their vehicle too well. But this will establish a curb extension at the crossing. It's signed and marked properly, and then approaching vehicles can see that crossing. And then we're also adding parking. So we're establishing official parking there, so folks know where to park. They're not just gonna crowd in or take up too much space, and it's more consistent. The other thing we're also looking at too is a section of School Street to realign the curb, establish the parking that's already there, but clean up the sidewalk. So we're trying to help include that as part of this funding of phase 1. Phase 2 is, again, it's from Maple to Summer, and again, it's sidewalk, establishing a ramp system that folks can get up on that ramp, and they're actually level with the doorways, and so it's accessible to everyone. And then also provide access through stairs that folks can come out of a doorway, go down the stairs, and get onto the sidewalk and get to their vehicle or travel along the sidewalk. Again, it's just providing ADA access. Phase 2B or 3 is the same kind of deal here. We're establishing access to those building sills, if you will, so folks can get up there. They can also access the sidewalk through stairways, but really establishing that sidewalk, a clean look, ADA access, and then also maintaining the parking that's there now, which is making it more official. I also want to add that we're also including decorative lighting along the corridor in these different phases. So it would be like a decorative LED light that is just spaced every 70 or 80 feet as part of these improvements. So phase 1 would have lighting, phase 2, and phase 2B would have lighting. So the last section is basically from Spring down to South Main, and we looked at the intersection of South Main, and phase 1 obviously is just we're trying to establish a connection to the supermarket, really maintain the existing width of the sidewalk, realign the curb a little bit so it lines up, because there's a bit of a offset as you approach the church driveway. But just reestablish it with granite curb, reset granite curb, and new concrete sidewalk, and then connect to the parking lot of the market. And then that phase 2B, I call it, established similar to with sidewalk. We leave that retaining wall alone as we approach South Main. Then we get to South Main, a lot of folks, it's a lot of traffic getting to I-90, and we looked at truck turning movements and so forth, and we think that this geometry would slow vehicles down enough so that we don't have that high-speed turn, but also allow the volume of traffic that has to access South Main or come out of South Main onto North Main and do that safely. And then we would just connect to the existing sidewalk, and then this also presents opportunities for landscaping, additional trees and shrubs and things like that. So that is the project. Just want to spend a minute and talk about schedule. So we're going after what they call a Complete Streets grant. The town prepared a plan a couple years ago, and it was approved, and now they're going to go after construction funding. So what we've done is identified the east side of the corridor. Mass DOT offers grants up to $400,000 twice a year for municipalities to go after this funding. And we've looked at the cost of the project 1 or phase 1, and with contingency, we believe it falls within that grant amount. So it makes sense for the town to go after that money. The schedule is May 1st, which is this week. So the goal is to submit the grant application by Saturday, and then sometime next month we would start looking at doing topographic survey of the corridor. And then sometime in July we would hear back from the grant committee, and they would, with the expectation that they would award the town the full amount. And then sometime over the summer into the fall we would complete the design, And then in the late fall, we would prepare bid documents and advertise the project for a contractor to bid on. And then the schedule would become, over the winter, select a contractor, and then prepare contracts, and then construction would begin at the latest, probably early spring of 2022, with the expectation that the project would be completed by the fall of 2022, but it could easily be before that.
Phase 1.
So last slide, I just kind of want to show you folks kind of the sequence of work, whether it's the project 1, 2B, or 2A. The first order of business is to really install the utilities. And so if we're doing any hydrant work or putting in foundations for lights, that happens at that time. They install a conduit to connect all the lights, connect it to a controller, connect it to a power source, and so on. And then they go to what I call the curb phase, which is install the curb, secure it concrete, and then they install the driveways and the walks, and then all the wheelchair ramps. And then there's I call a landscape phase, where we do any beds or trees that's going to get planted, they get planted at that time, and any shrubs. And then if there's any paving, in this case, we're just going to be patching the roadway, but at some point, at a future phase, we would include like a mill and overlay or a reconstruction of the roadway once all the other utilities are installed. So that's the presentation, and I'll hand it over to you, Sheila. I don't know if the board or anyone from the public has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody?
I
Question?
guess my question is looking at it's not pertaining to phase 1, it's pertaining to phase 2. Because I'm in Tyler from Gillette Restaurant Equipment. It looks like they're bringing the curb, like a widened sidewalk, all along in front of my building. So you're going to prevent any access. That's what I'm seeing.
Bill, can you hear anybody?
No, it's muffled.
So, I think that's Ann, right?
Yeah.
So that's Ann, and she's asking if the access in front of her building would be not accessible anymore from the parking that she had, because of the new parking that we were gonna put in there.
So it's Ann from Gillette, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yep,
Hi, Ann. I want to make it clear that we're still working with Ann, the owner, about how that's going to look there. So if the way that we presented it is accepted, if Ann, you're acceptable to it, right? So that would become a sidewalk available for another use, but the idea would be to prevent vehicles from driving over that threshold and parking there. And then the angled parking and the additional parking along Maple and north of Maple along North Main would offset that. So there'd be enough capacity so that your employees could still park on North Main, north of Maple, and then anyone else, like a customer, would have to be enough capacity that they could pull into one of those angled spaces in front of your building. But again, we're still working out those. We need to have other conversations with the owner.
Okay. I see so many problems with that as far as businesses in town. Putting that little bump out in front of the package store, everybody fights over when a delivery truck comes. We don't have 2 lanes. Where's the delivery truck gonna stop? And that's not me, that's the package store.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, we need that as
We
a
changed that a few weeks ago. There on Maple Street, where they're showing
He just
the
took it out.
4. Well, there'd be.
He took out that whole corner there that we had just applied
yeah,
for
there's no
parking.
place for trucks that's not me. My
This right
truck's
here,
going
we
to the
just
back of my
made
building, but
parking for the
for
trucks.
Al Goop,
Delivery
for the
parking,
package
yeah,
store.
delivery parking.
Yeah.
I mean, the foot traffic on my side is gonna go away when they move the convenience store to the other side. Because most of the foot traffic on 229 on the odd side, what are you calling that, the south side? Or the east?
That's west.
West side, the west side? Most of the foot traffic on the west side is going to the convenience store. most of the traffic to the package store, people are driving. I mean, they've been there forever. But the foot traffic, when Al Goose moves to the other side of the street, I'm understanding that that's gonna happen. Does that take into effect that whole change of sidewalk there?
Yes,
That's in the first phase, so
Yep.
that's all in that plan.
absolutely.
But delivery trucks for mine are in the back by Salem, so that's not a problem, but everybody else, it's a fight constantly.
Yeah, we need that delivery spot.
People
Yeah.
come running down saying, who's got the little red car? They walk in the stores looking for the people that own the car so they can get a delivery.
Yeah, so
Is
we were
there-
trying to reserve, that end of Maple Street, for delivery trucks. So a delivery truck will come and then we'll have a ramp
So every one of my
Um,
employees would have to run out and move their car.
so they can, wheel up whatever goods they're bringing into the package store, to keep them from double parking in the front there where you have the bump outs. So we need to design something down Maple Street long enough for a truck delivery parking type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand. So I think that's something that we need to work out with, understand better from the businesses at that corner. And that's Ann's business and the liquor store and the sub shop. And this is conceptual, so, and once we get more feedback, we can definitely modify that corner so that we create a space that could accommodate a vehicle just to pull in during the day and park and be able to unload their goods.
You just took
Absolutely,
out
I understand
three,
that completely, so yeah, this isn't set in stone, and that's why we want to hear feedback from the business owners.
you just took out 3 pizza place parking spaces also with that corner. 'Cause, Jim's Pizza uses that corner for their hit and run, pizza people. When they pick up, they park right on that corner, right in the front, and those first 2, that's her main, parking spaces for people picking up their subs, pizza and grinders, whatnot.
So can I say, one of the things that we wanted to do was to fix the sidewalk, the crosswalks in that area, because right now they go diagonally and they're really dangerous to walk that far across the street. So we were trying to figure out how to do some kind of a safer way for pedestrians to be able to get from one side of the street to the other side. So we can definitely relook at that, I think, if that's something that we need to do, but the idea was to, conform to the pedestrian-friendly area of the downtown and make it safer for pedestrians. As well as have parking, and obviously we'd have to rethink the delivery area, so.
We just made it so that the delivery guys wouldn't park and double park and park on the other side in the front, so they would have that spot over there. It hasn't been
Like on the
established
cemetery
yet.
side of Maple, you're
Right
talking
where
about,
that
right?
corner is there, yeah.
Okay,
Highway is supposed to paint that as delivery. The signs went up, but he just hasn't, he's been busy. He's supposed to make that curb right in front of the pizza place handicap accessible so they can deliver their stuff on the corner of Maple and North Main, and then wheel their stuff down the sidewalk.
okay.
Yeah,
So
It
again,
just
even if
hasn't
they wheel
happened
their
yet.
stuff down the sidewalk,
Huh?
they're gonna have a long crosswalk to have to walk across if they're wheeling their stuff across that crosswalk.
But they'll be going in a crosswalk. They won't be cutting across the street like they have been.
Right. I see what
We're
you're
trying, we're trying to make this
Yep.
work. It's just in the last.
But on this one here, look at that the long parking they have in front of the cemetery on Main Street itself.
Yeah.
If it's a long truck
Right,
and it's a straight shot, we just make that no parking during delivery hours. So that's delivery drop off during the day and then after
That knocks out
delivery.
3 spaces there.
Where?
Right, you're talking right here?
Yeah.
so Ian, can I ask you,
So
I
they're
know
gonna
that
have
this is
to-
a concern.
you're gonna
for you,
knock
but-
out
and
those
that-
3
We've only
spaces?
had
Yeah.
a couple of conversations,
Well,
and we can have a lot more.
Well, she's
Sorry.
just saying that you just
'cause
gained
I wanna make sure
spaces,
that
you
this
just took
works
it
for you
away
too.
again.
Is there a reason why your employees park on the main street and not behind your building? Is there no
There's
parking
room
behind
back
there?
There's
Okay.
room back there. And those vans that I leave there, they stay there all night. You can't park cars on the street when there's snow all night long. You can't leave them there. If I
Right,
leave them out back, they're buried in.
Mm-hmm.
There's no space. that real estate is not that expensive in this town. I don't like to be the real bee here, but there's a couple residential houses there. I
Sure.
mean, the town should look at, if they're trying to improve Main Street, all the buildings are empty because the buildings that are doing business there, everybody's fighting with each other for parking spaces. We all hate each other.
Oh,
It's
that's
terrible.
horrible.
It is. When Jim's moved from where they used to be to the corner, I said, that's the end. He and I are done.
Yeah.
We won't even look each other in the eye because we fight for parking spaces. He parks in front of the package store. And when the package store has a delivery, they come down and get him and say, move your van. It's awful. We need to buy the house across the street, the old doctor's house, like the parking that Quabog has. Make a parking lot. If we want anybody to rent a space or buy a space, look how long the old pizza shop has been empty. People aren't gonna rent it. The old pharmacy, everything is empty. There's no place to park. People don't want to pay to rent a space
Right.
if they can't have customers, have parking.
So that makes me think right across the street is the Vibram parking lot, that they've actually redeveloped the driveway a little bit in
Yeah.
that spot.
Yeah?
So I don't know how many cars or employees parking there, but I don't see a lot of cars over there myself. So that
That's
doesn't mean
full,
we
that's
can't.
full when they have all their
Yeah.
shifts.
Is that full all the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are conversations we're gonna have to just keep having to reestablish, to make sure we get it to how we need it. So, but we gotta start somewhere. Do you know what I mean?
Can I ask a higher
So-
level question than all of this?
Sure.
What are the contingencies? You mentioned contingencies to getting up to the $400,000. What are we giving away?
Bill, did you hear that? Because I don't know, I haven't heard anything other than the fact that we.
Yeah, well, what are the contingencies?
Yes.
Correct.
So what we've done is, when we estimate a project like this, for example, the work on the east side, it's, we have various items of work: curb, sidewalk, foundations for lights, conduit, so forth. And so what we do is we estimate based on information that we have. And then I usually add like a 10 to 15% contingency because of price fluctuations, or, the time of year that you bid it, you might have higher pricing. So that's what the contingency is for. And so the 400,000 is for construction, and it's for construction and construction oversight if the town needs it. Typically, towns just kind of manage their own projects, but it's primarily construction money for physical things going in the ground. There's no design fee in there or any other. There's police
And so-
details that we need to construct the project.
To the Board of Selectmen,
Does that
would we
answer your
have,
question? Or
I'm wondering additionally, would we have a contingency as a town if we run over the costs that the $400,000 runs?
Do you think the 400,000 is gonna replace the piping and everything under the brand new sidewalks to each house?
No.
Because you have water, you
No.
have sewer, but we're
No.
gonna be digging that up?
no,
No, we're not
Down the
gonna go
road?
that far.
You're gonna do sidewalks
so,
and curbs, right?
Right.
the only thing that we look at, there are utilities, there's drainage work, but it's very minor. There are water service connections to each of those buildings. And so we've accounted for replacement of the water service pipe from the main, but it does not include any water main replacement. There's no sewer on Main Street that we know of, but no, it doesn't include what needs to be done, which is, there's a water main that's very old that needs to be replaced. This is not including that replacement. The reason why we went to the other side, the east side of the street, is because of that, because the water main is more on the west side. So
The water main goes to each house, so.
Dealt with through another source.
So you're gonna
Well,
be
we're
digging
not
up,
replacing the water mains for every single house.
but
That's
you're
not
gonna
part of
be,
this
you're
project,
gonna be doing a brand new sidewalk and curbing in
right?
front of it.
Right?
Right, which will need to be dug up, I think is his point, when the water
When
main
the
gets
water
changed.
service gets done, you're gonna be digging up these
When are
new
we doing
sidewalks.
that?
It's gonna be part of the complete streets, I'm sure, because they
It-
won't pave the road without doing the infrastructure
So-
underneath. I can't see that happening.
One thing that I don't want to see happen is I wouldn't want to see that we have the option to be able to go get sidewalks and stuff done now, and it might be 10 years before we get our water pipes and our sewer pipes done. So we're working also as the Downtown Development Committee to apply for the one-stop grants, which will be able to give us funds to be able to hopefully fix the water mains and the sewers in our town. That's a whole nother process, and that's probably gonna take us, it's taken me 2.5 to 3 years working with the Downtown Development Committee to get this far, to be able to apply for our sidewalks to be able to get done. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years before we end up getting the water mains done. We haven't done them since the 1800s. I wouldn't wanna see us have to wait to be able to get the sidewalks done, and then it ends up being 20 years, 10 years before we have to redo it all. I'd rather just enjoy the sidewalks and be able to know that we're at least getting this done than to say, hey, let's think of this as a whole thing, but we gotta wait 15 more years before we get our sidewalks done. That just seems silly to me too. So it could be never that we get our water mains and sewers done at this point, because it hasn't been done since the 1800s. So I can't expect that it's gonna be done, if half of us don't make it till tomorrow, that one-stop grant doesn't go through, we might not even get it. I would like to just see that we're doing work in town and we're getting stuff done, rather than always being like, well, what about that thing, and what about that next thing? We're working on it to see if we can do it, but I can't promise that it's not gonna take years before we get to that next phase.
My only concern was that you'd be digging it up again
Well,
after you get everything.
we're always
I know what
gonna
you're
be digging it up
saying,
again.
but yeah, that's,
But I would think that that would be included in that next phase or that next project that we do, that if they're gonna fix all the water mains, that we're gonna be able to fix all those sidewalks as well at that same time. So at this point, we've gotten to the point where we can fix the sidewalks, and I'd like to see us as a town be able to say, it's one of the things that we did on our master plan was that, people said the sidewalks in the downtown area are a disaster in most of the town. We want them fixed, and we're doing our best to try to get them done. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. I don't want to keep waiting for things that could happen, or that, we might end up fixing those water pipes. We're working on that too, but I can't promise that we're going to get it all done at the same time, so.
I hate waiting too.
Yeah, I hate waiting too, but this has been a long process. It's been almost 3 years just to get to here. So I'm really excited to just know that this is here. And like I said, it could be at least 5 years before we get all of our one-stop together. It's a lot of work to work with the water, the sewer, the highway, to get all those main pipes and everything redone too. So that's gonna be a big project too. And we're working on it.
On the parking, has there been any thought talking with Quabog to see if they do swap for some of their parking area there on Main Street to maybe behind the factory, where the Aztec property was, or what? They park over at the police station, right, during the day? You'd think the town would have some leverage to try to maybe work with them to swap some parking areas. That parking area they have right on Main Street would be a great downtown parking area for downtown.
You have to think too of their delivery trucks use that parking.
Yeah, but
because all their dock bays are in the back.
This, like towards the front, you just say no public parking beyond a point. Because I know the trucks go in there, but they don't take up the whole.
No, but they need that for access in and out.
Yeah, well, they need it for access, but there's also
But their cars are
parking.
going in and out of that too, so I think even
Right.
if they have access, whether it's their employee cars or our public cars, it's the same space that they're taking up, so that's a good idea.
Parking
That
is
doesn't mean we
a
can't
big
talk to
issue.
them.
Parking is a big issue downtown. I just think that'd be
All right, so what's the next steps now?
So at this point, I wanted Bill and Jeff to be able to bring this to the Board of Selectmen to be able to show, because we do plan on putting in the application for the Phase 1. This Saturday, it's due for Complete Streets, which is to apply for that first 400,000, which should get us that whole side of Phase 1, which is all the way down from Hannaford, all the way up to Maple Street on the, on that east side there.
Yeah,
So,
so there's no issues with that, right?
On the
That
east side, oh,
that's like where the gas station and everything's gonna be, which means that all that would be accounted for when the construction starts, like next spring, as long as we get approved.
is the 400,000 just for the east side? Or
Mhm.
is that for everything?
Nope, so what happens with Complete Streets is every year you're allowed to apply for up to $400,000 worth of projects.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Bill and Jeff had concluded that that Phase 1 project would be approximately $400,000 worth of funding. So we were gonna apply for that phase as our first year project. And then next year, we could apply for like phase 2B, and then the next year after that, we could apply for the next phase. So that way that doesn't hit the town if we are constantly looking for different grants to be able to pay for it.
So by
Rather
that
than the town
time,
being able to
Ann's
pay for it.
problem, you guys can talk with the pizza
Oh, yeah.
place, and so you're not.
We're still, this is the conceptual stage, and we need to apply for the funds for them to be able to finish the actual site design phase to make sure that this is solid and that they go out and they get like their, help me out, like surveys and stuff like that to make sure that this is actually gonna work the way that we intend it to work. So we do have a long time still worth of talking to be able to get that solid. We just wanted to be able to present the concept so that we can apply for the first set of funds from Complete Streets to be able to get one project off and on the way. And they
Sheila,
show the town
sorry
we're
to
doing
interrupt,
something.
but do you know, can they run concurrently so we can apply in 2022 even though the first project isn't done?
So we also have a couple other grants that we're looking at as well, and Bill was helping us out with that. We also have, from the Downtown Development Committee, we have a TAP program that's coming in June, which is a technical assistance program, which they're supposed to be helping us with the whole downtown area. We're hoping that they're gonna have a lot more grants for us to be able to apply to, or even just professionals that can come in and help us with this whole project. And we also have a local rapid response program that we're working on that's in town that's helping with the business side of that, which we're hoping that they're gonna have a lot more type of grants and stuff that are gonna help us fill up those spots with some more businesses and figure out marketing in town. And so we're really trying hard to make this happen. We want North Brookfield to kind of be a happening place, fix it up so pedestrians are happy, businesses are happy, things are coming back, and the downtown's alive again. So,
But do you know with respect, or maybe he knows, to this particular $400,000,
it's for phase 1.
can we apply in 2022 for phase 2 if phase 1 is not complete?
So that might be tricky. They've definitely, Bill, you want to talk on that?
On the Complete Streets?
Yeah? Did you hear that question?
I think I did. I'll try to answer it. So the Complete Streets program offers, there's 2 cycles per year. And there's a spring cycle, which is what we're in now, which is the May 1st submission. There's another one in September. So, and any municipality is allowed to apply for each cycle. So technically you could apply for up to $800,000 per year. However, the municipality has to, if they apply, say the town of North Brookfield is granted the $400,000 for this project and they find out in July, you would have to spend all that money by September to apply again this year. So realistically, the towns usually apply once a year because it takes time to get a contractor on board and complete the work and then get it approved and then go after more funding. So, so that's how the program works. Sheila also mentioned the local rapid response grant, but I also want to add that there's 2 more grants out there that that are very successful. One is the Massworks Grant. There's 2 types. There's one that's the standard Massworks Grant that typically is for larger communities with a train station and a huge development in town. But there's also part of the Massworks program is what they call a STRAP grant, S-T-R-A-P, and it's for communities with populations of 7,000 or less, and which North Brookfield qualifies. And you can apply up to $1 million worth of funding, grant funding for these types of improvements. So Sheila and I have been talking about this, and we've been, we'll be pursuing, you know, if that's an option. The other grant I want to mention is, there's another grant that's similar to the Complete Streets, but it's more geared toward outdoor dining, outdoor seating, just creating more outdoor space for folks in the communities to, when they've got events during the year. And that's called the Shared Streets Grant. And they range from $300,000 all the way up to $800,000. So that's another funding source that Sheila and I have been looking at that this would qualify for. And that we'll be working together to try to go after that funding as well. So there could be more money out there that could go toward the improvements that I presented tonight.
Thank you.
Question or clarification about where the church common is,
Yep,
and you're proposing to have an east side crosswalk, sidewalk there, as well as parking?
yep.
So is the existing right-of-way wide enough to accomplish that, or are you
That's
cutting
what
into
we
that
understand. No,
open space?
that there's enough space there to be
So
able to
the
provide.
Main Street will actually be narrow when you put in the sidewalk?
I think, did you hear that question, Bill?
With the right-of-way?
Yes.
So I think I know what the question is. Can we fit all this within the existing right-of-way? And the plans that you see right now, we've approximated the right-of-way. Most of it goes to the building face. And along the east side, it's pretty clear where it goes to the back of sidewalk and the face of the retaining wall. But along the building, sometimes it goes to the overhang, sometimes it goes to the building face. But what you see on these plans haven't been surveyed yet, but we're fairly confident that that's the approximate right-of-way. And so we've used that information to kind of design, or not design, but to kind of lay out what you see tonight. So we believe that we can fit sidewalks and angled parking and parallel parking and 11-foot travel lanes from Maple all the way down to South Main. It gets tight in front of the library, and that's why we couldn't accommodate parking in certain places. But everywhere else where you see this layout, it's within what we understand to be the existing public way.
What do you do with snow plowing with all these bump outs that you have? How do they plow the snow? They have trouble plowing the snow as it is. How are they gonna get the truck to go in and get rid of all the snow in those little bump outs that you have?
Bill, one of the selectmen is asking about how plowing happens with bump outs like this, if that gets more difficult, or how you handle something like that.
I spent a couple years with City of Newton, and it's a challenge. It's not, every town is different. The plow drivers have to be aware where the bump outs are. When I design bump outs and curb extensions, I try to design them so that they're not by themselves, and it's just like sticking out. As you'll see here on this plan, north of Maple Street, we extend the curb out as you come down the hill. On the right side, we extend the curb out, so a plow coming down the hill is going to see that curb line and won't just smash into the curb extension at Maple Street. So we try to design roadways so that they're visible, they've got signs at the corners, they've got, they're clearly seen. Plowing around them is a challenge, and it's a learning curve for a plow driver, but it's definitely doable. And I've worked with many communities who they pick the right guy or the right woman driver, and they're able to work around it. It takes a little more time. The other challenge, I think someone said about snow storage. I don't know if that was a question or not, but that is a challenge with curb extensions because the snow piles up at a mid-block curb extension, so they have to be dealt with after the storm. You have to send out a crew, and they've got to get in with a bobcat and clear that snow off, and so they're visible and they're not creating an obstacle or a hindrance. Did that answer your question?
You need a bobcat.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get a grant for that. How's that sound?
I'm just, they have trouble as it is. We'll see.
All right, anything else? We move on? All right, thanks, I think that's
Thank
it.
you, Bill.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll be in touch, Sheila.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time and your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, Mass DOT contract.
That is for, I believe that one's for Cider Mill Bridge. That's the next thing we have coming up.
Cider Mill Bridge. Anticipated start date. I don't see anything filled in. Oh, it's a contract amendment. Amendment to the date, scope, and budget.
because we have requested an extension on that one.
Okay,
And then this should be the updated contract for that.
all right, maximum obligation,
To use this feature,
$485,000 contract.
Joe, you just leave it what you want.
It'll stop.
So is this just an extension? Is that what we're signing? An extension?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
All right,
We have the money for that, right? The Cider Mill one, but they're holding it up for some reason? Is that what's
yeah,
happening?
I think it was a conservation issue
Yeah,
that they were holding it up for. That's why we need the extension, I guess, because the money's there, $485,000.
Yes, we have the money. There was a problem when they went to review the plans. It took them a lot longer than they thought, so we needed to extend the contract in order to meet intent. This needs to be signed too, that's part of it.
Oh, okay.
that's enough to fix it, 485,000 to fix that bridge?
I guess.
Is that, yeah,
That's what they've given us.
That's what they.
yeah, all right.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to extend the contract.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Right.
And then this one, is this,
You have to sign that. That's for the signatories on the contract.
okay,
The people who can sign it.
and who's the signatories?
You and one other selectman.
Oh. Oh, I gotta sign that.
And then just that top sheet, the one you just gave to Jason, you
Yep.
need one signature on there.
Oh, there's one signature on the top one.
Yeah.
Mr. Sticky. The contractor authorized signatory? You sure this is me?
Yes.
All right, next up. One-day liquor license for Brookfield Orchards?
It's multiple days. I think the schedule's on the back of their request, or I have everything up there. They sent the insurance.
Oh, yeah. It's the
every year.
annual thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Wine and beer license 2021, May 22nd, June 19th, July 24, August 28, and then September 11, 12, 18, 19, 25, and 26, October 2, 3, 9, 10, 11, 16, and 17.
I move to approve the wine and beer license for the Brookfield Orchards for those dates listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Exception policy collector water.
Remember I emailed you about that? We talked about it last week.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
can push it
yeah.
off
Yep.
another week if you want.
No, we need to set the policy, right, that the collector is not going to issue exceptions for the water department.
Without prior approval of the water commissioners.
Yeah, so evidently the water department is sending everybody to the collector to decide whether they get an exception to their water. Is it the late?
Late
Is it late fees?
fees, shut-off fees, making a payment plan, stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's all falling on Lisa's lap, and she's not comfortable doing that because it's
Yeah.
the collector of taxes she's supposed to be collecting the
Right,
funds.
and
so.
it's the water department is an enterprise fund, so,
And they're elected.
yeah, the commissioners are elected, so it falls to the commissioners, as far as I can see. So they need to set the policy or make the determination as to who gets an exception, if anybody gets an exception. And so I'll entertain a motion to make that an official policy of the board.
So moved.
Of the water commissioners.
Well, this board will make a policy that it won't be done by the collector of taxes, it will be done by the water commissioners.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Fire reports for January, February, March. I see the chief came in. Ready? Oh, you didn't bring one? Yeah, sure we
There should be
got.
copies in there.
For your what?
It's supposed to be after. We ran a little late.
Oh,
Shills.
oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you want us to do it?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll do it.
We can expedite it. You can read that.
I'll do it for you if you want.
I got it, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Monthly fire report for January, February, and March 2021. Applications to become a Northbrookfield firefighter. That's 3 new applications. No fundraisers these months. Equipment repairs, the hovercraft, fuel repairs, oil changes in engine 1 and tower 1, along with fuel filters. Repairs to the engine for skid unit, fire pump, brush 1. Fire prevention, continue working on pre-fire plans, continue to respond as needed for any after-action situations. Continuing street numbering systems. Installed few smoke detectors under Red Cross program. Conducted more business inspections. In the process of 2 large industrial buildings getting engineered alarm systems approved. Training, group training continued as allowed regarding COVID restrictions. Mandatory training regarding firefighter safety. Fire station maintenance. General cleaning continued. Spring cleaning prep to paint floors. Responses, fire alarms, 10 faulty detectors, 2 ice rescues, 2 storm details with multiple responses, 1 dive team called the Brookfield boat incident, 1 factory structure fire, dust collector, 1 diesel spill, Hannaford parking lot, 13 medical assists, 1 tree fire, 5 carbon monoxide responses, 4 motor vehicle responses, 2 investigations for fire, 3 chimney fires, 5 illegal burns, 5 brush fires, permit inspections 36 for smoke alarms, oil tank, and boiler replacements. A total of 135 ambulance responses for these 3 months. There were life saves involved that will be brought up when awards are given out. Date to be set. And a $10,000 equipment grant from the Department of Fire Services for 13 new pages and 2 radios for cruisers. And new FEMA GO grant program activated for town. And would like to thank all town agencies for their assistance during all responses. Thank you, Chief Hallway. Thank you, Chief Hallway.
Thanks, Joe.
So, motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, public comment period. Want to take comments from the public. The rules are, you can only speak when recognized by the chair. There's a 2-minute time limit. If you repeat yourself, you're done. We've heard it, so we don't need to hear it more than once. I will remind you of Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, that no person shall address a meeting of a public body without permission of the chair. All persons shall, at the request of the chair, be silent. No person shall disrupt the proceedings of a meeting of a public body, and if after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order the person to withdraw from the meeting. If the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove that person from the meeting. So, with that, who's first? Yes. Oh, identify yourself because some people wear masks.
Absolutely. My name is Maria Bidersucker. I live at 8 Brooks Pond Road, and I'm the Senate Chair of the school committee. I'm here this evening to express the school committee's deep dismay at the proposed school budget for the FY22. According to the one communication we had from the Board of Selectmen, the proposed budget is $5,158,872. That is a $1 million cut from last year. That constitutes a 16% cut to the school budget, which will devastate the school. I'm here also to invite both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen to join the school committee in a tri-board meeting to explain to us exactly what the town budget, what terrible shape the town budget must be in for you to cut the school $1 million. I also want to express my support for our superintendent and our staff. There's been a lot of implications of financial management of the school budget that is absolutely inaccurate. The school budget is a public record, and as we had our meeting yesterday, it's balanced to 14 cents. I also want to express my support for our staff, our teachers, and all our other staff. It's been an extremely difficult year for all of them, and they've been very dedicated to our students. And I've listened with a lot of interest to the proposal that Sheila brought, and I've also read some great articles in the paper about what the good things are going to happen, hopefully, with the grants for the townhouse. People want to make North Brookfield a town that people want to move to, a town that is a destination. That will not happen if it is not a town that does not support its education. I also want to say that regionalization is obviously something that is being considered and talked about. Regionalizing a school system will not cost less money. You will still, as a town, have to support public education.
Okay, so I watched the meeting last night, and you answered your own question when you asked the question about the tri-board meetings. We've had tri-board meetings in the past.
2018.
2018, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute waste of time. And I'll tell you why. Because the school committee sets the school budget. The town has no input in the school budget. We can't look at the line items and say, this is a waste, we don't want this money here, we don't want that money there. Unlike the general budget, which the town does control. So the school comes to the town and says, this is what we want. Now each year it's 8%, right? It's about 300, and this year it's 367.
No, this year is 5%. Last year it was actually less than 0, or less than 1. The year before was 0. The year before was 2.5.
That's what you got.
For 8%.
That's what you got.
Right.
Not what you asked.
We asked for 2.5 to 8%.
So just so people understand, this town, as every town, has a 2.5% levy limit, which means we can only raise revenue by 2.5%. 2.5% on our tax levy is $165,000. The school asks this year for $367,000. If we were able to fund the school at $367,000, if that's what we gave the school, we would exceed our levy limit by $200,000. We explained this in 2018 that money in cannot exceed money out, right? Or the other way, money out can't exceed money in, right? So if we're paying for the services that we need, and we have $15 million to do that, we can't spend $16 million or $17 million. Right now, net school spending number for the town of North Brookfield is $2,988,000. That's the net school spending number.
What does that include, Mr. Kiley? Can you reiterate for that? That also includes health care for staff, doesn't it?
That includes...
Or our town employees, we get paid for health care the same as the town employees through the same.
For the school employees?
Yep.
That goes into net school spending.
Mm-hmm. Right, and also what else does the $2 million include?
So the state sets the number for the school. Our foundation budget is $7,056,351. That's what the state says we must spend. Of that, the state gives us about $4,309,000, which makes our contribution $2,988,000. Now that includes what we give to the school, because the school budget isn't under our control. That's the whole problem, is we have a tri-board meeting. The one we had in 2018 wasn't, okay, let's sit down as a town and see what we can cut from the school because we can only give you $100,000. It was, we need more. We need more because we got to give it to the kids. And we don't have more because we have other departments that have to be funded. So for the board and for the finance committee, it is simply
A
math.
waste of time. Yeah, it's a waste of time for us as well. I just wanted to let people know that, you know, because there's a lot of concern about the lack of communication between boards, and I do want people to know that the school committee has attempted to communicate with both the finance committee and the board of selectmen. I also want to reiterate that when we come to the town with the budget that we set, we are understanding that we're not going to get, for instance, in this year, 5%. What we ask the superintendent to do is we say, tell us what is the needs of the school. And 5% actually is not what the needs of the school is. 11% is actually what the needs of the school is, and it was cut back to 5%. And we knew that that was unlikely that we would get that. However, it's good to have a conversation with the town boards to help them understand what it is exactly what we're asking for.
Right.
However, I also want to say that both you and the finance committee, in the meetings we have had, seem to willfully want to misunderstand how the budget works, the school budget works. Because we've had conversations with you, the school has mandates that we have to cover, just like the police and just like the fire. And so, you know.
And again, money in, money out. I don't know what to tell you. If we
Okay.
don't have it, we
You
can't
don't-
give it.
yeah, absolutely.
And
so I'm going to go
and-
back to what I said before, which is people want this town to thrive. So tell me, if you don't have a school that is thriving, how is the town going to thrive?
well, that's your little catchphrase, so I don't know what to say to that.
Okay.
I don't see that the school thriving makes a town thrive. I
Really?
think businesses make a town thrive. I
Sure.
think
So let me
residents
ask
make
you,
a town
what
thrive.
towns in Massachusetts that you think of that are towns that have a lot of businesses? So the gentleman up there mentioned he worked with Newton. Everyone I'm sure is familiar with Newton. Newton is a very nice suburban town, has a lot of businesses. It also has one of the top schools in the state, and it is extremely well funded. Now,
Well-
obviously, we can't fund the way Newton does. But
So I will point out that you are here tonight at an open meeting
Yep.
that everybody can come to.
Yep.
You are welcome to come to our meetings and speak to us, and you do not. You mentioned that at the meeting last night, that you said, well, I bet you that if you ask them, that's what they will say. All their
You're
meetings are open.
absolutely right, and I knew that.
Finance committee meeting is open. And you know why you knew we would say that?
Yep.
Because that's what we've said for 3 years now. And you don't come to the meetings. So I guess that's on us that you don't come to the meeting. The highway superintendent comes to the finance committee meetings on his own. He doesn't get an invitation. The fire chief comes to the meetings when he needs something. He doesn't get an invitation. So they're open to you to come to discuss. You know, and I don't know why you think we need to come to you. To me, that's like the tail wagging the dog. You're
You know
asking
why?
us for
Because the
money.
school committee is an elected board, unlike the highway department and the fire department, who the highway superintendent and the fire superintendent are employees of the town. And I appreciate what all of our town services do. And I just wanted to come
So,
tonight.
and that's the answer, because you're an elected board, and I will repeat, you're an elected board that has complete control of the budget. Your budget's not posted online where anybody can see it, and I can tell you from 2018 to now, this town has posted its annual budget ahead of the meetings so that everybody can see where everybody goes. So the way it works is, at the town meeting, anybody can stand up. They can make a
I know
motion
how it works,
to
Dale. You don't
change,
have to talk down to me, okay?
to change the money going to
And
the
budget.
school.
Yep, thank you.
Now, if you do that, you're going to have to identify what you're going to cut in order to move that money to the school.
Sure. So, you know,
So-
that's a good conversation maybe we can all meet and talk about then.
Yeah, and you're welcome to any one of our meetings at any
Okay.
time, because we're an elected board also. So,
You are.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, are you Jessica? Nice to meet you.
Jumping off
No,
what
she's
Maria was
not.
saying is,
I'm Justine.
we just
Oh, sorry,
needed to,
Justine.
the reason we came was we wanted to open a dialogue because it's not a question of not having the extra 5%, it's a question of removing 16%, which from the past history, there have been several years where there was no increase, which is understandable because the budget is tight. This is not a budget being held at no gain, even though the teachers have contractual raises and everything else. This is pulling back 16%, which is what puts us in the bind we're in.
Are you familiar?
Level funding.
I'm sorry, who are you again? I missed the name.
Tim Canada. From,
Oh, school committee.
Yep. School committee.
So, the state comes out with the cherry sheets. You must be familiar with the cherry sheets, the funds.
Yep.
Chapter 70 money is the money that the state gives to the town for the school, right? That was decreased this year because the state's having a problem with revenue. Our shortfall this year is a shortfall in revenue because of the pandemic. We're coming out of a pandemic, and just so you know, the shortfall is no longer $1 million, so it's 500,000. So Sheila, our new town accountant, went over our revenue projections today, and they were able to identify some additional revenues that hadn't been accounted for. So as it stands right now, it's only a $500,000 shortfall, 498 at the moment. So it's no longer $1 million. And that's the problem, is this process happens every single year, that and this is why we continue the May meeting into June, because we don't know what the state's going to give us for money, and we don't know our own revenue projections until like right before the new year starts. And the statutes allow for town meetings to go right up until June 30th because you have to set it by July 1. So it does get pushed off like that for these projections. So the revenue projections have changed, which means the amount of money that we can to give, that we have to give, because if we don't have it, we can't give it. That's the problem. So right now it stands at 498.
I understand, but the concern just comes from, and Maria's very emotionally invested in this. I'm trying to back her up a little bit, but it's one of the main things that we've been having discussions about is the numbers of students in the school and the school choice. It's all been part of the regionalization process and everything. And the concern is, and I'm sure you've seen the numbers on that, where school choice out versus school choice in. It's very heavily tilted. I mean, we have groups of 50 students in the first grade, and we're graduating 30 kids from the class. And it's one of those it's one of those things where it's a perception of the investment in the school makes people want to keep their kids in the high school. Whereas I hear a lot of talk about just, elementary school is great, and then they're already kind of looking elsewhere for when they get to high school, and it's sad. And I don't think it needs to be, because I think the high school is doing really good stuff. That for the size of the school, they really have quite a range of programs, and they're just trying to keep that.
So let me tell you about our meeting in 2018. We had a tri-board meeting. And a number of people from the school were there. The principal was there, the elementary and the high school principal, superintendent, number of teachers. And we asked this question: why are kids choicing out? If the school doesn't know why kids are choicing out, how do you address the problem of people choicing out? If you can't identify why they're leaving, you can't solve that problem. And Maria said it last night at the school committee meeting that they don't find out why.
That was, sorry, I'm Matthew Grant, 99 Old East Brookfield Road. I actually asked that question, and I was extremely upset that Mr. Lynn doesn't take the time to, I mean, if I'm in my business, right, if I lose a customer, I want to know why, and I want to know how to fix it. For him to take a big pay increase that they announced at the end of the meeting, which was a little bit weird. They talked about a budget early on, then they talked about him getting more money at the end. That was, I feel like that was trying to hide the, they're trying to,
Well, right now.
Hold on. So my wife took a 20% pay cut last year because of COVID. She works in healthcare, the company to stay afloat, cut everyone's pay 20%. Mr. Lynn's doing more, he says, but then showed that the other co-principal is doing more than him, so he's only taking 20 grand more. I think the school needs to really look at, where they're, Mr. Lynn, he doesn't have a PhD. He doesn't, he's not communicating. It doesn't sound like, I think there's two sides to every story. That's why I came tonight, to find out. And I will disagree with you that people do move to a town based on school system. That's what I did. And now I'm starting to feel like I made the terrible choice because of this childish back and forth. There's got to be a better way. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's all on the school side or not. That's why I want to start coming to the meetings to find out.
So I can tell you that
it's just upsetting as a resident and a parent.
You can't say that we are transparent and then not act transparently. So when the superintendent takes pay like that, now I have the teachers' pay scale here. They get a 2% pay raise every year, COLA, and they get a step grade every year for 12 years of 2%. Every teacher gets a 4% pay raise. And for years, our town employees weren't getting pay raises because all the money had to go to the school. And then 1 year every 5 years, we would get a bunch of free cash money and we would give the town employees a pay raise. So they were getting pay raises on the back of the town employees, the way I looked at it. And then it's interesting to note that in the contract with them, once you max out your steps at 12, you start getting longevity pay, which is $800 a year plus $160 every year after that. So they're still
and
accruing.
I think the teachers' union is a little bit different. The superintendent is not a part of a union, correct? Okay.
No.
Right. So I guess that's I look at it like if he's not doing a superb job for my kids, and he's not, because I'd love for my kids to stay here throughout high school, but the way it's looking right now, that's not going to happen. We have less than 40 kids per class. Why is a superintendent of a school district this small making almost $200,000 a year? I think that's a huge, to me there's something out of whack about that.
What does Tantasqua's guy make?
Tantascus makes about 110.
Yeah, there's a problem.
And she's a doctor, as you pointed out, and I did some simple math. They have 2,997 students in the Tantasqua Regional School District that she oversees for $110,000. When you divide that out, each student is paying about $30 for that superintendent. We have 470 town residents going to the school. So, we got 520 and we got 53 choice ins. So 472 tax-paying students in the school district. For the superintendent to make $180,000, that is $350 per student just for his salary.
There's also the co-principal now too, don't forget.
Well, if you look at the budget, which they don't post, they added an administrator in 2018 for $100,000. The administrative costs alone for the school is $600,000. Just for the 4 administrators that they do have, that's equal to the police department's entire budget. So there's something upside down here, and the problem is the town doesn't have revenue. The town, it has 4,600 and some change residents. The median income is $46,000. We don't have a large tax base. So that we're fiscally constrained.
Yeah, and that's the only other thing I wanted to add is that I was told by someone who is in the Quabog district that Mr. Lynn canceled a regionalization meeting prior to even talking to the school board. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. And then Maria sent the letter after. But to me, and then the answer last night when I asked about it in the meeting was, well, this just takes a long time, so missing one meeting doesn't matter. But what I can tell you, the school board and the superintendent in Quabog was not happy. They were not happy. So for them to brush it off like it's not a big deal. I can tell you right now that the way the school handled COVID, the way that things have been going, I applied for the OSB school. There's a huge waiting list. We're not going to get in there, but I've loved all my kids' elementary school teachers. They've been awesome. They do a great job. But I think things need to be looked at. We can't always just blame somebody else. You know what I mean? I think we need to look at inside, you know, look at the, because I mean, that's the first thing I did, is I started searching how much other superintendents are making in the area, and his is out of line with the amount of students he has. So to bury that bump at the end of the meeting I felt like that was an insult. Like, they waited till there was only 40 people on the meeting and said, okay, let's talk about, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if, I'm just talking perceptions here, like, I don't know if you would agree, but it just,
and I can tell you, because I know you weren't around in 2018 when we had the meeting, and I did ask the question why people were choicing out if they knew, and the one answer that I got from the high school principal was when they hit high school, the number one reason for choicing out that they knew of at the time was bullying. So.
Still an issue today. And I need to add, because I'm on the regionalization committee study, that one of the biggest challenges we're gonna have to regionalize with anybody is that our teachers are paid a lot more than these other districts, and they would have to come up to those salaries because you cannot cut the teachers' pay. So regionalization is a huge issue for us, in part because of our school budget and the way that it's structured right now.
Anything further?
Can I mention something? I was on a committee with Mr. Evans a couple of years ago, and we were trying to bring in Chapter 74 into the school system. So I just wanted to make this in part for both of you, because both my kids graduated from North Brookfield, and they're very successful, and it's a great school if you make it a great school. One of the things that I think happens in the high school too is that the high school is a very academic school, because there's not a lot of sports, there's not a lot of music, there's not a lot of programs. They're there, but they're not beefy like they are at some of the regional schools that we have. So one of the things that we were trying to do with the Chapter 74 was bring in engineering and to bring in programs that are more geared towards children that are going to be more academically focused, so that we could create a program, a specific program in North Brookfield in the high school to not only entice children that live here, but entice school choice people to come to us. Like, what makes us different? So I would suggest to you, as a person, especially new, that's on the school committee, and I've never been on the committee, on the school committee, I was on the other committee to try to bring this in, was that we wanted to try to turn North Brookfield into North Brookfield Academy. Change the name, change the marketing, refocus our curriculum, so that it focused on something that's very niche and specific in our town that creates a need and a want for people to want to come here. And that we're not just the same high school that every other high school is, because we can never be that. We will never be that in our town. So if we want our town to be something different, we have to create something different. So to just be the same budget every single year, the same problems, the same issues, is not changing anything. Something's got to give. And I know that was one of the things we were fighting for. And at the time, we were very, very close to getting Chapter 74 passed. We actually had everything available. We had the engineering room downstairs. We had the engineering teacher. We had all the curriculum passed. The engineering teacher quit 3 weeks before we got passed to have Chapter 74 in our town, which would have not only allowed one trade, but many other like academic trades that aren't available anywhere else that we could have had here in North Brookfield. So my suggestion to the school and to the parents would be like, find a way to remarket and refocus and recreate North Brookfield. Because if we can't regionalize and it's too expensive, what can we do that's different here? We have to do something different.
And that's why
Doing the same thing year after year.
That's why I brought up finding out why kids are leaving. I mean, you
Right.
can't fix a problem until you know what the problem is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And you can't. I mean, it's what every business does when you lose customers. You try to find out why customer acquisition in any business is
I
big.
agree, yeah.
I mean,
We've been asking for years for.
I love that idea, Sheila. I do want to clarify that regionalization is not impossible, but
Right.
one of the huge hurdles for us is our huge salaries.
I heard that
So-
too. And that
Yeah.
the teachers in our town get paid the most than any other around the
Which is
region.
ridiculous.
And that a lot of people come
Which is
to our
crazy.
town to grab that base salary budget so that they can go. So we're almost like a jumping board for other people to be able to
And the
go
other
to.
point about school choice out money comes from the general budget in the town. That's not coming out of the school budget. School choice in money goes directly into the school budget. So when we talk about next school spending, those are the kind of things. Transportation costs. $700,000 in transportation costs this year alone. None of it recoverable because we're not a region. If we were in a region, 80% of that would be coming back to the town. So a lot of these things, and I asked Mr. Lind about that specifically because the transportation cost comes out of the general budget. And if the schools were shut down and no transportation was being used, shouldn't that be coming back to the general budget? And his response was, well, we're contractually obligated. So does that mean they paid for a service that didn't work and probably got PPP money to carry them through? And that's the problem with the town not being able to get answers from the school committee because they're an elected board. They're the only ones in control of the budget. You know, you can go to a town meeting and ask any question on the general budget. You can change. You know, if we give $600,000 to the police department, you can cut them by $200,000 and give it to the highway department for snow.
Fire department.
Yeah, the fire department for a building.
My budget's one person's salary, and that's 28 guys, $4 million worth of equipment.
That's true.
1,800 building, paramedics and EMTs, one salary in some of these different businesses in town.
That's true. Yeah.
129,000.
So, did I hear you right that we paid for buses we didn't use?
Well, that's the answer I got. I don't know for sure if we did, if they have it still in their budget, if they reappropriated it, because this is the problem we had in 2018 with the school.
So they don't have to tell anyone in town where their money goes?
No.
They're not required to.
Not required to. They're not even required to give the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee a line item budget. All they're required to do is tell us how much they need, and there's no oversight from the town itself.
And my taxes pay for that?
Yeah.
Can that be fixed?
They do though. They give us their budget, but now there is a statute that I found the other day that at town meeting, you can do a suggested vote that's non-binding on the school committee. So you could show your displeasure with some stuff and make a motion and vote it. Has no effect on them, but it telegraphs to them that you're displeased with this line item or that line item. Yeah.
How does the citizens of the town call to have an audit done on the high school or on the school system? Can that be done? Can that be done?
Well, I think there's
Would have to go through
there's
the
an
Department
annual
of Education, I would think.
I don't know, there's an annual audit that we go through almost every year. Certainly every 2 years is a big one. It's called the Gatsby or something like that. We have to put like $40,000 into it every couple of years, and it's a mandatory audit.
For the town.
Well, for the town, but this town's different because this town, our accountant and our treasurer also pay the school's bills. So it comes through us. But we don't have any say over it. So I don't know if the audit picks that up or not. If they look at the school or not, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. But to answer your question simply, I don't know.
I have one other question.
Yeah.
Last year, when the school shut down, that was in March, and they closed down for the year. What happened to that money? Were teachers still being paid and all the regular stuff, money was still going out?
Well, there was remote learning,
Those are all
right?
union contracts.
Yeah.
They didn't have remote learning last year?
At the end of the...
It's still contractual though.
Yeah, it's still contractual. You still have to pay them as did all town employees got paid, even if they were working remotely or, non-essential and they had to close down, they were working remotely, they all got paid. Because we had to. Well, they're not doing nothing. I wouldn't say they're doing nothing. They're not doing, in my opinion, not doing as much as it, because I worked from home for a little while, and I didn't do as much.
And I can say some of the teachers did awesome. Some of the teachers probably worked more. I can tell you some worked probably less based on, seeing what I saw with two different
Yeah,
groups.
the only real shutdown was the transition point
exactly.
when the schools had to close.
Right.
And then we didn't have the capacity to do it. They didn't have the technology, and they were trying to figure out how to get the kids hooked up and everything
Can I
else.
ask you a question? Who makes Mr. Lynn's salary? Like, where did that come from? Because that's a lot of money. That's really irritating me right now.
The school board did that.
For our tiny, tiny town. That's a lot of money.
And he wants
And
to
now I
leave.
know why my kids left.
He's also tried to get other jobs, correct?
Goodbye.
I mean,
I had
that's,
two
Oh, yeah, he
choice
told us
out.
he was looking for one.
yeah, so I mean, I just take that as he's not devoted, you know? I mean, that's just a personal opinion, obviously.
Well, he lives in Bellingham, doesn't he? I wouldn't want that commute either.
And
Yeah.
I believe we're paying for the stipends for him to travel.
So,
back and
Brandon,
forth.
did you have something? Did you want to?
I mean, yeah, I mean, don't want to turn this a whole regionalization thing, but, I mean, to Sheila's point, the engineer that they hired quit because they can only pay him part-time. It always comes down to a matter of money. And we've been, I've been here a long time. My daughter went through the whole system, been throwing money and trying different things. They tried the morning academy thing, that didn't work. You know, they tried this, they tried that. It's time to look in a different direction, just my opinion. I think, the direction is regionalization. So, I don't want, I mean, I think we're getting way off.
Yeah, I don't want to beat it to death, but does anybody have anything else they want to
Let me just,
add?
one thing that the town should take out of this was kind of a wake-up call. This happens every year, budgets.
Yep.
Everybody turns in their budgets every year. Finance and the select board go over the budgets. If you ask for the moon or the sun, you might get the moon. Highway asks for stuff all the time. They don't get everything. Fire department asks for stuff all the time. They don't get everything. Neither do the police. And a lot of other places in facilities in town ask for as much as they can. The town cannot afford that. And everybody here is blaming the FinCom and they're blaming the Board of Selectmen. If the money is not there, how are you going to get it? And Dale said that before. It's a matter of numbers. You can't get blood from a rock. So instead of blaming the Board of Selectmen and FinCom, you come to those two, to us with your budget requests. And that's what they are, budget requests. And if the request cannot be handled, you have to do something else. Find some cuts. If you can live with a little bit less. My wife and I do it all the time. I didn't work for 4 months when this thing started. That cost me a lot of money. I took it out of my savings. I had to do it. I'm back to work now and everything. I do a lot of stuff in town that's not paid for, but that's what I do. You just have to, and I hate to say this, but you have to suck it up a little bit. If the money's not there, it's not there.
Anything? No, we good? We all set? Anybody else? Last chance, go on.
The wind.
All right.
Somebody needs to make the wind stop.
Yeah. So, I take a motion to adjourn for executive session, only to exit to adjourn the meeting.
Sorry.
Second.
Dale Calias.
Jason Church, yes.
John Cook, yes.
All right, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, I will see you tomorrow.